welcome to this very impromptu um video. Okay. This video is courtesy of Queen Amy Harris. All right. Um it's her birthday today. Happy birthday. And she had requested that I look up and analyze the IRS. It was like, no, I'll do it on the house. No worries. I got you. And yeah. Oh, dude, trust me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't expecting much. I really wasn't expecting much at all. I knew there was significance, but at the last moment, I really wasn't expecting much. I was like, July 1st, 1862. I wasn't even sure if that was really exactly the date, but we could still just work with the year. And I was like, okay, I'll see what we can summarize. No, guys, this is big. This is fucking big. In fact, on some real shit, to do this due diligence, we might have to make this a 3-part series. I'm not gonna lie. This is just going to be initial findings. I'm going to let you know why this is very relevant, and that's why, once again, Queen Amy Harris, thank you for, what I'm saying. It's also very significant knowing that you were born with Sun in Taurus. You were born in Taurus season, and we're talking about revenue services and how this happened when Pluto was in Taurus, right? So it was once I saw what the astrology of 1862, I realized this is more relevant to what's going on than what's going on right now. Like it almost terrified me. Yeah. So I'm gonna use this video to just kind of pick you up to speed to just certain basic facts that I could find right now about the institution of the IRS. I'm going to show you what was in the sky, okay? And I'll pretty much outline what in future installments we'll take our time to break down, because I think this is definitely very worth breaking down. I could do a quick synopsis right now, but I think we're gonna have a civil war, guys. I think it doesn't have to be violent, right? But yeah, peep game. All right, so this is 1862. 1862 is after 1776. So this was, of course, the first time Pluto was in Taurus since Pluto was in Aquarius. All right. Mind you, Pluto is in Aquarius right now. So it hadn't even gone a full rotation. Like this Pluto Taurus you see right here, by the time it was in Scorpio, it was 1990, 1988. Like that's how legendary Pluto transits are. Just making sure we're clear. This is 1862. This is like 1950s. This is like 1990. Okay, and this is 2024. Really marinate on that. Really marinate. And this is like 1983 to like 1995. But really marinate on that. So that is insane. That is completely nuts. All right. So that's why I realized we might fuck around and end up doing a whole American history lesson. So I might have to hit up a historian just to kind of do this justice. Because I could look up some basic information, but I think I want to do some proper research, because in realizing that Pluto's back in Aquarius now, the rest of the decade, I think, is going to complete oh my God, this is crazy. It's going to complete what the IRS started. And I can only think that means we are getting ready to witness the end of the IRS. And the only reason why I think we would see the end of the IRS, or a transformation of the IRS, or something definitively completely shifting, is maybe because of civil war. And that's what really blows my mind about 1862, because the IRS was founded under the Abraham Lincoln administration, I think shortly after the first Civil War. And that's what, dog, this is wild. That's what blew my mind. Look at Neptune. Look at Uranus. All right. And the reason why that's crazy is, where is Neptune now? 29 degrees Pisces. That shit is crazy. Hold on. 29 degrees Pisces. That's where it is right now. Oh, I want to kind of just let you know how effed we might be. I don't want to be like negative. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I was just kind of being dramatic. Neptune is right here and Uranus is in Taurus. All right. Since 1862, by the way. That's the crazy. That's why I'm saying, like, these transits we're going through right now are the most historic transits to ever happen in quite literally a few centuries, right? So look at where Neptune is finally at the final degrees, right? 1862, it was at 3 degrees. I want you to marinate on that. I really want you to marinate on that. Neptune right now is 4 degrees away to where it was in 1896. So since 1896, it's gone all the way through the zodiac. Now it's 29 degrees and you're watching the street. Like, that is insane. So the IRS over the next year is getting ready to have its first Neptune return. I want you to just meditate on that real quick. The IRS is about to have a Neptune return, and through 2026 to 2028, a Uranus return. Okay. So I'm so glad that Leo Sun Pisces Moon bought up crypto and a Trump election. That's why I'm going to be producing another prediction video with Trump, because who first of all, a lot of people don't understand this is the tiebreaker match. All right. That's why it was very significant that Scorpio Drake kind of lost to Gemini K Dot. This is going to influence a lot culturally the elections. Like, this kind of prepared people, not just for the elections, but just, a front of that. So, okay, I don't know about Biden having a second term, but Kamala Harris with the Lucifer moon being president or vice president as Uranus goes through her Gemini rising, versus President Trump having his Uranus return. Okay. One is going to bring a whole new face of the country, and the other is going to bring the country through its next revolution. I'm not necessarily saying that either is bad or good. I'm just letting you know that's really what's at stake here, whichever you feel about it. And I'm going to go more in depth at that. So if we put all these pieces together, President Trump having a Uranian return in the seat of president is going to be the most revolutionary, crazy thing to ever happen to this country. And I think nobody knows that more than the controlled opposition he's facing. Okay. Literally controlled opposition down to Saturn, 7th house from his 29-degree Leo rising. So I think he's the most important lead role character in this. And I don't say out of bias, I mean as far as like relevance, but I'll kind of get to that later. But just really keep in mind, the IRS is about to have a Neptune return, which to me is like an entire dissolvement, a dissolving of what's occurring. And that's why I want to make this a 3-part series. So I could do more due diligence and actually study the history of the IRS And what we do in this part series is we would look at Pluto here at 11 degrees, and we would study the first quarter of this from, of course, 1862 to about the 1950s. This will cover the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression, all right, which is it's something to be said that Uranus is in a similar position when the United States had its Great Depression, I believe. Let me make sure I'm getting that right. Yeah, that was like 1920. Yeah, the Roaring Twenties. It was the end of the Roaring Twenties. So, oh yeah, okay. The Pluto was there. I see what you mean. So that's interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of people are on the money where this might actually represent the full-on transfer of physical coins to digital coins. That's not a prediction, though. That's just a guess. I don't know. I just kind of want to highlight, and we could get the exact date, but the IRS is going to have its first Neptune return. That is entirely mind blowing. That's completely mind blowing. And then 2027, 2026, 2028, Saturn is going to be transiting Gemini with Uranus. So it's going to have a Uranus return. I do feel like in between this time, right, we are seeing, of course, a literal completion of the IRS as we know it. And that's where I want to kind of research how the IRS has kind of transformed and changed. I'm going to kind of also research public-private status, given that the IRS has the right to tax you because many of you are public citizens. So we might have to, that's why I have to do some research. We might have to research the connection of the Vatican to the United States, your birth certificate, the real reason why the IRS kind of actually has the right versus private citizens and nationals whom they may not be able to tax. Some people call that a theory. It's definitely worth going into. And once again, thank you, Queen Amy Harris, because I feel like you asking about this is just at the completely perfect time. And there are definitely some Easter eggs here. And I really want you guys to kind of let me know what you think, your intuition, what comes to mind. It's definitely worth, kind of researching, doing a documentary over. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of grasp that. 1862 to about 1950, 1940s, 1950. Yeah, that's going to be the first part. We can kind of look at its origins, how it activated and then began to integrate. 1950s was high conformist culture that led to the hippie generation and like dead stock, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, the next installment would probably be the 1950s to the late 1980s and 1990s. Wow, this is a very irregular orbit. Yeah, that's a crazy irregular orbit. The 1990s, yeah, up to 95. So this would be where now it's completely integrating socially, right? As America has completely exploded in its population through the birth of the boomers, Gen X, and of course, us millennials. And then I would say this is probably where the 90s is where the IRS began to harvest relative to this Pluto position. And it's interesting that I'm using Pluto as a marker too. But now this is the most important part, guys. So from the late 1990s to about right now, right, was the entire harvest period of this country extracting trillions of dollars. Sorry. The harvest of the money. All right. You know what I'm saying? Whatever these agents are that have our totally best interest in heart is they just take money because taxation is totally not theft. The libertarians must have not known what they were talking about when they said taxation is theft, but they clearly not. So, like, yeah, the 1990s to now, we have just completed harvest. And I want to give you an idea of why that is freaking bonkers. All right. Freaking bonkers. As you can see, Pluto is 2 degrees. Neptune is about 4 degrees away from returning to where it was since 1862. And that just blows my goddamn mind. I'm sorry. Like, I just, that really got me stuck for a moment. Yeah. Now, the reason why I'm mind blown is we're coming into this Pluto completion, this 270-degree angle of completion, coming into the anniversary of the Civil War cyclically, which is just very mind-blowing to me. The roots of IRS go back to the Civil War. The roots of the IRS go back to the Civil War, when President Lincoln and Congress in 1862 created the position of Commissioner of Internal Revenue and enacted an income tax to pay war expenses. The income tax was repealed 10 years later. And the reason why that's important is the way tax was collected back then versus everything up until 1933, right? We have to factor in the Federal Reserve banks and the politics of 1933, which is going to be right before it starts integrating. Okay, so we have to factor that in, how taxes changed, how citizenship changed. And I'm going to do a lot more research on that before I come back, because I think it's definitely worth it. And this is why it's definitely worth it to study. We know that this once again happened basically during the Civil War, and I think after the Civil War, right? So if we look, we know that Pluto is 2 degrees, and in about in about a year from now, Neptune will be 1 degree. It's going to do-si-do and retrograde back with Saturn, but then it gets serious 2026, where it'll be 3 degrees. And while it's 3 degrees, Uranus has entered Gemini. Do you see where I'm going at? Do you see where I'm getting here? So the rest of the decade is bringing back the cycle that brought the Civil War, the divide of interests within America. While was French going through a revolution there, or was French going through their wars there? I don't know. No. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, okay, thank you. Federal Reserve 1913. I'll look that up. But yeah, this is very key because as you can see, where Neptune was the last time we had Civil War, it's back. Now, the thing that I kind of want to establish is I don't necessarily think that correlation is causation here, namely that just because Neptune and Uranus were there last time and there was a Civil War, it doesn't mean that when they're here this time, there'll be a Civil War. There's going to be a Civil War, guys. Like that's all I want to say. I know I didn't mean to post ad hoc fallacy that, but like, yes, just please understand, like all this is coming back. And I think it's going to reinitiate conflicts relative to the maturity of social to collective issues over 2 centuries. This is literally the most generational shit we could ever be going through. And for you to be alive during this period is nuts, is insane. You need to look at your higher self and check your contract, your karma contract, because the fact that you're even alive right now is wild. Like the rest of this decade is going to be absolutely bonkers. Literally starting all this year, like 2024 has not let up at all. 2024 has been insane. So, yeah, guys, Neptune in Aries is one thing, but Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, this is the dawn of the new era. Everything else is just preparation for this Renaissance period where your civil liberties and your independent rights are going to be, I think, more challenged than ever and threatened to be taken away. And that would make sense that people are probably fighting a revolution and war that doesn't even have to involve guns or chaos and violence. I think it's just going to get violent anyway, because, I mean, come on, this is the 3D, like, this is the reality. But, like, you know what I mean? Doesn't mean it has to. Oh, they released the movie already? That movie already came out? Look at them trying to do, what do they say? Predictive programming. Honestly, if Barack Obama is involved in the release of that movie, I don't think you guys know that he is a high-ranked celestial king wizard. So I'm not saying he's a bad person, but he can see the future. So like, listen, God, it's social engineering. I have to be honest. Like Obama has Aquarius rising, so this dude has a very genius. This dude is a fucking genius, man. I'm not trying to like compliment him. He's in the background. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was written by like him but if he's involved in it or in any way, yeah, I'm sorry. He has Uranus on his sun, so he's trying to show you the future. He's trying to show you the future. And I'm not saying I think it's trying to social engineer and predictive program how to prepare for that, which means they must know. United States is a whole social engineering experiment, which is facts. And it's also a corporation. So with that being said, the Uranus transit here is one thing, but we want to look at the transit of Pluto progressing, right? The North Node is going to be key, right? And we want to see Boogie. So basically 2029, give or take 2029, 2030, basically the end of the decade, fam. This is where Pluto is going to make an exact 270-degree angle to Pluto in Taurus, where it started. Okay. 2029. Neptune is going to return like 2026, 2025, 2026, and Uranus will return by the time Pluto gets to the square. So the rest of the decade, just based off of examining the natal chart of the IRS, where let's pull that up again. I want you to look at Neptune here. I want you to look at Uranus here. Jupiter is expanding social dynamics relative to all this new revolutionary stuff we're creating. Okay. And then there's the nodes, of course. Saturn, there we go. Saturn is in Taurus. Okay. All right. Okay. That's crazy. So it's going to meet at the 30s, the 2030s. Okay. So just want to make sure we're clear. Booyakasha. Neptune, Uranus. Where's Saturn? Virgo. Oh. And then the nodes are kind of opposite. Okay. So yeah, fam. The rest at the end of the decade is going to bring war. I'm just gonna get ready, guys. This is it. I'm not sure what the IRS has to do. I'm thinking dissolvement, because Pluto making a 270-degree angle means that we're done harvesting. We're done taking all the money that we needed to take from here. And I don't necessarily mean that we're done stealing the money from these people. Unless that's what it was, then the libertarians are right. But we are seeing a completion through this angle to now map out the results, right? And I feel like completion to balsamic, that whole next cycle is gonna be the dissolvement. It's gonna be like it's like it's not needed anymore. It's like it's complete. which will set it up maybe for a new cycle. Sovereign citizenship, that's also what I'm researching. Sovereignty as far as like not being a public citizen, but a private citizen based on your passport. And that's where, before 1933 versus after 1933, the Federal Reserve 1913. These are things that I want to do due diligence and research so that we get a really good, thorough analysis. So this video really does serve as part one, just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. This is uh, a something burger of great revelation. What do you guys feel about the fact that Neptune and Uranus will be back where it was the last time we had a civil war in this country? And as we venture into the rest of the decade, where Saturn and Neptune are going to come out of Pisces and initiate a brand new cycle, a new karmic cycle. Uranus is going to come out of Taurus and go into Gemini and innovate technology. By the time Uranus is in Gemini, guys, we have augmented reality and we can move stuff with our minds. This technology already exists. Neuralink technology. If you guys want to get what's the word, apocryphal with it, mark of the beast, you know what I mean? Like, this technology is going to completely, like, AI, as amazing as we think AI is going to level up crazy. So we're still in the beginning phase. And I want you to, as we venture through the rest of the decade, really examine the heightening tension of culture and conflicts, right? And how maybe divides and everything that's been swept under the rug for years will really come up huge. I want you to start to notice what the themes of these cultural tensions are and go back to the 1860s where this first popped off and see if there's a similarity, how it might have evolved. It's very fascinating because you're living through it and there's so much nuances and themes. You know what I mean? I don't think back then, for example, transgenderism was a theme like it is now. There's so much stuff that's new now that's not new, period, but in topic now that is just a conversation and speaking point, right? That is going to add a lot more nuances to how it is, this all kind of comes through. And someone's saying transhumanism. You guys have been saying that a lot too. I think the technology rollout is going to be ridiculous as well. And the significant thing about this is all of this is culminating to 2031 and 2032, 2033 and 2044. This is where Saturn and Uranus meet in Gemini, and then they move into Cancer. This is going to be exceptionally significant if you were born in 86, 87, 88, 89, and 1990. Okay. Those of you with like Sagittarius, Uranus, and Saturn, that opposition is what's going to catapult you into world leadership generationally. If you think every 5 to 10 years, the older generation moves on and the younger generation gets older. And these could realistically literally be tracked by faithful Saturn cycles. Who'd have thought? So this opposition is going to be ridiculous, ridiculous. And it's very important to kind of examine the technology of an 87 versus a 2032. Okay. Especially if you have Uranus and Sag. Yeah. Uranus and Scorpio, congratulations. You guys have completed the Uranus Taurus opposition. So I can't wait to do documentaries upon documentaries just on the outer planets alone, like Uranus generations, Saturn generations. It's just such a fun way to kind of like get an idea of shades of an identity or or how we kind of share in certain themes and whatnot. But yeah, we're gonna do that due diligence. I want to call it out of the darkness into the light. Neptune and Pisces, Pluto coming out of Capricorn, Uranus and Taurus is literally the last push of the darkness, the last push of the corruption to operate in the shadows. Because Pluto and Aquarius are people that are finally awakening. That whole 20-year transit is humanity awakening. And then Neptune and Saturn and Aries is now on an individual level, people taking responsibility to connect with this awakened knowledge. It's like, okay, we're awakening, but what do we do? Neptune and Saturn is that light of what everyone is doing individually at a collective scale, right? Transcending. That's why Neptune and Aries is going to be so legendary, because a transit like that and reinitiating a Neptune cycle since the 1800s is, as humanity is awakening the sextile to Pluto, it's literally like people worldwide accepting that they're not just a human being, they have a soul, versus it just being taboo. Like, imagine that's not, I'm not going to say that's going to how it's going to happen, but Neptune is literally transcending your belief in oneself. If you think all of us just saying we're a human being is all just a belief. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Neptune and Aries, Saturn and Aries is the institution of a superhero powered society. So there's also that. And this is proof because of everyone born after 1995 and the maturation of people born since the 60s. Okay. So Neptune and Saturn and Aries is collective institution, like literally a superhero registration act, where now you have to register your Kirk. And then Uranus and Gemini is just going to be a more rapid acceleration of that. It's going to be the beginnings of that. But yeah, personally, you know what I'm saying? Imagine if worldwide, the way we understand our genetics, the way we understand how we identify ourselves, like we might no longer call ourselves human. We might now start to recognize that we all have human forms, but different spirits. The way we kind of look at spirit versus genetics, I think is what is an idea. It doesn't even have to be that, but that idea of how we kind of even define ourselves, which would be interesting now to see how people did, obviously, back then. But yeah. Um, That's going to lead to Uranus and Gemini that is going to integrate, begin to activate everything that we've done. Like, imagine what Uranus and Gemini feel like is going to be like is, imagine over like a decade and a half, we've gained an identity of being on the phone, right? And like using these, being basically a android, being basically a cyborg. Like, really think about that. A whole decade and a half, we have to use these devices in order to, like, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do this. So Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini is debuting all that you have to do linked through your brain. So it's like, instead of grabbing your phone, it's like, imagine if you can literally press a button on your brain and then you can literally cast a screen. And it's not even like something has to be, I believe stuff wouldn't even have to be chipped in your brain. Like, just imagine if it was just literally integrated and you literally could just like live the experience. I think coming into the next couple decades, that's what's going to really integrate. And gone are the days where we're going to need devices to do so much stuff. We may be able to, you know what I'm saying? We may be able to completely create these programs just in the mind. I think that's really where we're headed to. The delay between what we think and input coming closer, like being like a hyperbole, close to infinity but never reaching there. So that's just a theory. That's just a theory. I'm saying this based off of technology that kind of already exists by high developers, and then literally amateur, I'm not going to say amateurs, but like, geniuses who don't even have the funding. Like they just the MacGyvered this stuff. You know what I mean? So at all levels, we see evidence of technology where stuff is, there's technology that could read your brain waves and move based off of that, which is crazy. Like imagine if you can literally control your mouse with just your eyesight. Like it reads the signals from your brain, and now you don't have to. That's kind of where we're stepping into, and it's already happening too. It's already happening. I'm sure they already have had this technology for years, but regulation, the Saturn transits now take these innovations and institute regulation, because you can't just put it out there. You have to figure out how you're going to regulate it and make it, work before you have flying cars. And now flying cars just fall from the sky and crash because it was never really regulated for what could happen. So that's the whole deal coming into the end of the decade. It's like all this innovation, and then slowly but surely going to get regulated over the rest of the year. There are going to be a lot of things from now until 2030 that you can do and maybe be in the loophole or use as a loophole before it gets regulated, that type of thing. So all of that breakthrough into the light begins the middle of 2025 going into 2026. 2026 and 2027 is the breakthrough into really kicking in this era, and then the rest of the decade really is just stepping into it. I think they're going to be completely exciting times, but who could really expect what that's going to look like? Anyway, that being said, yeah, and that's the coolest thing. Like Pluto and Aquarius is reawakening the telepathic channels in everyone's neural pathways. Of course, the way people tap into it is unique as them. And that was a very crazy sentence I said. But like, yes. So 2029, we're gonna have Pluto in Aquarius, and that's gonna be interesting because Uranus will return and Neptune will return. All right. Um, yeah. Oh, it probably came back around there. That's why. Um, a lot of emerging countries, yes, a lot of emerging countries, China and their connection with Africa. But I think there are a lot of twists and turns we can't see coming. I think maybe the formation of new countries that we would have never expected, in the fall of some countries too. Anything is quite literally possible, at least so it seems. So yeah, just to recap, we can do a four-part installment series where we look into, once again, part one, 1862 to about like 1950s Pluto Leo. That could be part one. We can look at how it began, how it kind of pushed forward, and all the shenaniganery that happened in between. And then we can look at the 50s to the mid late 90s. Pluto Leo to Pluto Scorpio. Yeah, it really has an irregular orbit. It moves fast in some signs and then slower in other signs, I would think. Okay. And then we're going to look at the 90s to right now. Right? So part one, part two, part three, and then the fourth part will be more like predictions based on everything we've seen, kind of just mapping through what's happening. That's going to be like post 2030 though. So yeah, so that's really, bookmark this video. I just wanted to use this video to let you know why I think analysis and breakdown of this is necessary. If anyone also does their own version and beats me to this, all I ask is that you do it justice. This is not my original idea. Once again, shout out to Queen Amy Harris. She had requested I do this. And upon seeing this, I definitely want to do this justice. But I wanted to at least express, of course, certain themes relative to the Neptune return, the Uranus return, the 270-degree angle between Pluto, and of course, the Uranus Saturn conjunction coming at the end of the decade. That would be crazy because, yeah, I wonder if a huge theme of Africa would be a next step of independence too. But yeah, foreign rulerships would be very interesting too, or of course partnerships, a lot of alliances. Um, but we'll see. I think I'm hesitating because there's a way that we see things going into the next 2 years right now that I feel like is going to be 180, completely 270, 180. You know what I mean? Like there's a way we think things are progressing right now, and I think there's at least 2 to 3 things that we don't see coming at all that probably couldn't even be planned or orchestrated that will like change how we look at everything. You know what I mean? Like if the polls switched, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but like, we can try and predict how countries will kind of, you know, interact and say these people might be in a war with these people, but we can't necessarily predict a 10 magnitude scale earthquake that completely destroys a country and its economy. We can't necessarily predict a hurricane with such magnitude that it floods a place for a long while. We can't necessarily predict crazy tsunamis, but I think we can agree and predict frequency weapons might actually be more of a thing, whatever that means, in the sense of however they may look, because a lot of these are invisible. And yeah, that's also going to be Uranian of an influence, especially when it goes into Gemini. And I don't even mean in a way where you're just waving frequencies. I think there could be just new understandings of how to really work with them. Crazy floods, flooding, stuff that uh I know you might think certain people kind of control even the weather and stuff and control certain facets, but what about stuff that they can't even control? What about stuff that is out of their control? I feel like there's going to be at least 3, 4 events that occur like that will put a halt to government processes, um, and maybe now change public relations in certain ways. So doesn't mean that that's going to happen, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to open that before we even reach the end of the decade too. Oh, nice. All right. You guys stay blessed as always. This was fun. I enjoyed this. Oh, shout out to you, Amy. I see you got a progress chart. Nice. I like that. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to head up on out of here. And you guys stay blessed as always. I'm going to do a bit of research. And when I'm ready to put out part 2, I'll come back out with another banger and analysis. What I might even do is a video essay. I want to start doing video essays. So, yeah, I'm going to make a video essay version and we'll do it like that. I'm going to start getting back to pre-recorded content. And then if anything, we can go live reacting to it. You guys stay blessed as always. Peace.